I'm back again. This time I decided to do a little Q&A video. I had some time this past week. There was a scheduled fall break, and while I took some time off doing my schoolwork, I was still working, of course, but I actually wanted to make some time to create a new video, and this is what I decided to go with. So today I have drawn up a list of questions, and hopefully I'll be answering them to the best of my ability, and yeah, we'll see where that goes. I'm also happy to report, well, maybe not report, but I'm also happy to say that I have gained 2 new subscribers, and yeah, I'm happy that they're here and that they'll get to enjoy my content. So thank you for subscribing to my channel. So actually, yeah, it was a suggestion from one of those 2 subscribers that I just do kind of like a Q&A kind of thing. Her comment on my previous video was asking me like, oh, where do you like to go? What do you like to do? Seeing as you're an outsider, why don't you shed some light on that? And I was like, sure, I'll definitely try to incorporate that. So here I am. So like all basic introductory videos or Q&A sessions, there's usually a question that asks, what's your name and where are you from? So for those of you who don't know, my name is Angela, and I am from Gander, Newfoundland and Labrador. Coincidentally, I'm also wearing a shirt which is a representation of my province in the sense that it's the logo for their airport. So this is what it looks like. Not sure if it's backwards or not, but yeah, if you've seen this airport logo before, then that's awesome. Those shirts are actually made by a company in Newfoundland itself. It's called Newfoundland Dog Company, and they are branching out on different types of designs and styles, and it's really cool to see them grow. And I had to make sure that I got one of these before I left because I knew it was a piece of home, and yeah, it's just really cool. Another question I thought I would put in here was, you don't sound Newfie. Are you sure you aren't from Ontario? I figured I'd put this in because of my accent, and if you really pay attention, or if you really are really good at detecting accents, which is something I really personally love, I'm interested in, especially in the branch of linguistics, you find that my Newfie accent isn't really thick. It doesn't come off as very strong, but that is one of the fascinating things about language, is something I can talk about all day because I just love it so much. And so there's so many aspects to having an accent and even a dialect. So an accent refers to how, what you speak, how it comes out, regardless of what language you speak, how it sounds. And the dialect is more so concentrated on what words you use, what slang, or just what terms that people around you can understand. So yeah, I know my accent really doesn't come off as Newfie right away, but it's just where I grew up and influence from media, my parents, my schooling. But I can put it on if I really want to, or if I am around people who I know really well, and just, yeah, I could just do it if I want to. But for some reason I don't want to do it right now. But it's just something I get sometimes, that whenever I tell someone that I'm from Newfoundland, they're like, really? Newfoundland? Newfoundland. Oh my gosh. It also just stems into how people from other places in Canada, say Ontario, how they say the name of my province versus how I say it. So I say it Newfoundland, people say Newfoundland or Newfoundland, which, I mean, it's not wrong. Everybody has their way of saying certain words, as long as it's not too far off, right? But I won't correct them per se. I'll just say it how I say it, and then I'll just I enjoy it. I find it amusing and interesting linguistically that people can have their variations on words. So Okay, so another question, what brought you to Sarnia? This can actually branch off into two different, directions, in the sense that this is my second time coming here, but the main reason was school for both times. Attending Lambton College was the reason for me to come. I applied to their Communicative Disorders Assistant program, which was a postgraduate certificate option. You had to have at least have had a degree in order to be accepted or considered. That was a requirement. I did that first because I liked how being a communicative disorders assistant was described. The way their program was written or described was that you could be an assistant for either a speech-language pathologist or an audiologist. I just found that really cool that you could work for one or the other and have competence and knowledge in each area. So that was really cool. I probably didn't phrase that or explain that very well, but just knowing that their program had the option of working for either or occupation or assisting those professionals, it was really cool. So that was the first time I came to Sarnia, was for that reason. My situation was a bit different, I guess, because I'm from out of province and I didn't really stick with it. I wanted to, I considered sticking with it. My initial plan was to apply for my master's and become a speech and language pathologist myself, and I thought that by having this extra education from college would boost my competence in those areas and better my chances of getting accepted into a master's program, because across Canada I know they're intensely competitive. So I figured that this would boost my chances a bit, but life just didn't turn out that way for me. So I moved back to Newfoundland. So in saying that, I moved back home and I worked for a while, and then I was still trying to figure out what I really wanted to do, and I needed to have a game plan of some sort. So I knew I wasn't going to stay home in Newfoundland and work, but I knew I still wanted to go to school for something. So I ended up applying to another program at Lambton, their office administration, and specifically for health services, so medical office administration, and I got accepted, and here I am, once again. So it's going well so far, and I'm hoping for the best. I figured I might as well return to a place that I've already been to before, and I enjoy living here, so it's nice to come back. Another question I put in here was, do you like attending college? For the most part, I mean, yes, I am very, very grateful that I'm able to go to school, and for as long as I've been going, I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm just okay, come on, let's just finish this up, let's get out there, let's get into the job, or the working force, and just start working, because I ain't getting any younger. But as for going to college, I'm just very grateful, very thankful. Going to college and getting that knowledge, right? So just fueling those thoughts, fueling those productive thoughts for a career and a job, and just going for it. So I'm very appreciative of being able to attend school. So my program specifically, it's office administration, but it's 2 years. And for this year, it's very, very general. They obviously want to start off with the foundation so you can get a handle of what's to come in the following year. So for me right now, I'm learning a lot more in depth about Windows specifically, and Microsoft Word, Microsoft Outlook, Microsoft PowerPoint, and just being able to use those programs really well. Oh, and I also can't forget that keyboarding as well, proper technique and how to type. So just getting used to that style versus growing up being on the internet and having my own style for so long. It's just kind of hard to get into it, but it's been good so far. So I'm actually looking forward to the co-op in the second year, which can either be paid or unpaid, and that'll be really where you apply yourself and test everything that you've learned, because it's a real life situation. You're Like, I can't even like explain how real it can get. Like, that's the most real it can be. Being put into like an office of some sort, but for me, I would hopefully probably like a rehabilitation clinic or something, and just put your knowledge to work. How does Sarnia compare to home? Well, how can I explain this? I have to say that while Sarnia does have a bigger population, it still kind of feels kind of small in certain ways. Like, I know how to get to where I need to go for the most part. It can be a little bit tedious taking the bus, but I do end up where I need to go, so that's good. But it's definitely bigger than home, and yeah. I'd say like there's a lot more people, and scenery is obviously different due to like nature and just a lot more buildings and structures and roads and everything. But I say that in a way that like Newfoundland's not as developed. No, I don't mean it in that sense. Like, I mean it in just there's a lot more here because Ontario is just very prosperous, and Sarnia is just happens to be bigger than where I grew up. So as well too, like there are different industries here, so like oil and gas, Chemical Valley, Sarnia, and for back home is we do have oil and gas too, but it's more so focusing on like food and fish and stuff like that, so, and produce. And to further elaborate on how does it compare to home, I was also thinking like what do I like and what I don't like about Sarnia. I actually don't have like too much to say in terms of negative or positive. Like, for me, I've been very fortunate that I haven't really had any issues or problems with anything here. Like, I found a place to live, I'm working, I'm going to school, and I have a way to get around, so, and I'm close to grocery stores and banks and shops. Like everything seems to be pretty fine for me, which is another, I'm very thankful for that. So I would say sometimes, like, I'd say the amount of people can get to me a little bit. Sometimes I can get a little bit anxious around crowds, but that's just the way it is. This is a college town, right? And there's a lot of people around working out and about and going to school, so that's just something sometimes it gets to me, but other times it doesn't bother me at all, so I'm good with that. From other answers in this video, I've kind of touched on working, and I am currently working at the moment. I am tackling the work and school combined work style, lifestyle. Sure. So I'm working actually in one of the coffee shops here in town, and it's been a learning curve because they have a lot on their menu, and I'm not overly familiar with all their products, but everybody that I've worked with has been super nice, super understanding, and like I know how fast-paced it can get working there, and I'm sorry if I'm like ever annoying at all or anything. They've just been so nice, because there's a lot to learn in such a short time, and because I'm working and going to school at the same time, I'm not at work for like 40 hours a week. I'm not there enough in order to get familiar with everything as much as I want to, so just, yeah, I am working at the moment. So as an outsider, someone who is not from here originally, my favorite places to go or see, I would have to say, to be honest, I really just like walking downtown because of all the shops and how they're all close together. I think like kind of the layout reminds me of home subconsciously. So just, even if I don't buy anything, I just like walking around because it's just, I don't know, kind of like a touristy thing, but also just, I like going on for walks in general, so it's just nice being able to see it from time to time. I especially like walking at the harbor front just because of the water and the boats, and you can see America literally from across the water. You like what you're looking at across the water is America. So that's very, very interesting, and how close we geographically and physically are. So I find the harbor front also very nice in terms of the trees and all the walking paths, and just again next to the water. But you can also see Chemical Valley in the direction too. So yeah, and I just remember distinctly like the first time when I came here, just seeing a classical theater. You have a theater in town that put like, when you put off musicals and plays and productions, that's just, I find that so interesting, like so vintage, but also like a part of history that you can preserve, because like people can go there to see shows like all the time. And that's like, while theaters do exist back home in terms of like drama production, but there, I find like there's something like you have to hold on to dearly, because it just seems so classic and old, and but good though, good for the community. So a shout out to the Imperial for just being awesome and being able to just be a part of the community. So, and that also reminds me, the first time I did actually see a show there. I saw Donovan Woods, and I had no idea who he was. I just knew he was an artist who made music, and yeah, I went to see one of his shows, and I just found it was really cool. So, and to also find out that he's from Sarnia, born and raised, that's also just a bonus. Favorite places to eat? There's a big selection in town, so, and a lot more places that Newfoundland doesn't necessarily have, but yeah, I picked Kitano's because I love sushi, and I found that Kitano's was a really nice looking place, and the food there was great. Yeah, I just really love sushi, and going there was a really nice place to go. So I highly recommend Kitano's. But Kitano's is not the only sushi place in town. And if there are any other places I missed or just didn't know about, please let me know, because more places to go, more recommendations, that's awesome. I haven't necessarily been to everywhere in town. I've been to I covered like 90% of Sarnia, but there's just some areas that I just don't go in because I have no reason to. But I also recommend Hana. They're another Japanese food restaurant, and they serve sushi too, but they also serve a lot of different dishes and treats, and yeah, that's another place I recommend as well. Not only do I like sushi, but I also enjoy trying different caffeinated beverages or coffee. So, and I know there are a bunch of these in town, so I have to say Blackwater Coffee. That is a very nice spot. Very, very tiny in size, but very nice layout, nice music, and all the equipment they use. They tailor their drinks so well. So I've only gone there like 2 or 3 times, but it's a very nice spot to go. I also have to mention too, Coffee Culture. That is a place I haven't really heard of. I don't know if it's just an Ontario thing, or if it's a Sarnia thing, or maybe both. One or the other started first, perhaps. But that place, I find that place really nice too. Especially there's 2 places in town. There's one downtown, and there's one in the London Road area. So I find their food and drink selection pretty good too, and the atmosphere is nice as well. So, however, I can't leave this other place out in terms of mentioning coffee. I also have to mention Starbucks, because one, I was never really a coffee drinker, even though I just talked about those 2 previous coffee places. But Starbucks specifically, Newfoundland only has like 2 that I know of, and Starbucks was not my first choice, just because I never really went there before, to be honest. But when I flashback or time warp, when I went back home after the first time I came to Sarnia, if you can follow me straight, I actually worked at the Jumping Bean Coffee, which helped me gain competence and confidence in making caffeinated beverages like lattes, americanos, drinks using espresso, and yeah, being able to do that stuff. So Starbucks, I have to shout out to them too, because there's only one of them in Sarnia, and I know a lot of people like their Starbucks, and they have a lot of drinks, a lot of food, and very good people. So one question you may be wondering is how I get around the city. For me, I am not in a situation where I can afford a vehicle right now, so I'm hoping that once I finish my program and get into the workforce that I will get a car. Thank God. Just realized I say so a lot. So I mostly, when I can, I take the bus. I have the bus schedules for the week and the weekends, and I also make use of this app called Transit. So seeing as this hasn't been the first time I've been to Sarnia, when I went to school the first time, I got used to the bus schedule. I knew which routes to take and when and what times and the directions. But since coming back again, this time around, they've added some new routes, they've added new buses, and things have changed for me a little bit. So basically, in coming back, I had to basically start all over again to make sure that I knew where I was going and how to get there on time. So I found this Transit app in my app store. Depending on which phone or product you have, it may vary, but this Transit, it tells you all the buses, what routes they take, what time of day they're going in, and what direction the buses may be. You can see a real live bus tracker, which is really cool, and I find that it helps me out a lot in seeing which bus stop I can get to, which bus stop is closest to me, when I can leave, and it can do lots of things. So it's been helping me out a lot this year. There's probably some quirks or some bugs that they could sort out a little bit, but that's the thing with any app. There's always going to be a few things that need to be tweaking here and there, but for the most part, I find it pretty good. Oh, and if you ever need any bus schedules or anything like that, I would check the City of Sarnia and their website there. One question I figured I'd put in here, just for giggles I suppose, was a typical Friday night, and to be honest, I really just don't do very much. But in saying that, I don't get bored easily. I'm just content doing not very much, either just on the internet, on my laptop, or doing homework, even though it's not particularly, something I'd want to do, but I'd want to get it done and get it out of the way as soon as I can. So yeah, it could be a variation of just internet, laptop, movies, TV shows, maybe going out somewhere, maybe to a movie if there's something good, but for the most part, I just keep to myself. So I should mention though, in saying that, Fridays, it reminded me of Sarnia's First Friday, which is an event that takes place on the first Friday of each month. Say, if it was May 1st and it ended up on Friday, June 1st, the first weekend of the new month. So basically, what I gathered from First Friday was that the times I've been down there, which was only just been a couple times, shops are, their doors are open in the evening, and there's live music, and there could possibly be people dancing in the street, or depending on what time of year it is, and if there's any other events on the go, then First Friday is at least worth checking out at least once, just to see what it's like, because you never know what could be happening. Just for example, there was one time I went, and they had a live band in the record store, which was really cool, because elaborating on the Imperial thing and being vintage and liking that classic stuff, I also very, very, very love music and artists, and just being able to see bands I've never heard before or music I've never heard before. Then I just love that feeling, finding your next your favorite song by someone you don't know, and you're like, oh man, So I just like seeing live music and concerts is just something I also love too. I also put this in there just as for another question. Looking forward to anything. Like I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be looking forward to anything, but it's always nice to have at least something to look forward to. I'd say at this very moment, I'd be looking forward to just seeing the Halloween costumes. So I work on the evening of Halloween, but I'm hoping that it'll still be fun though. Make things more enjoyable. I guess another thing too, like I look forward to potentially traveling, potentially going to shows, potentially might get a tattoo, I don't know. But they're all just maybes or potentials, so I don't have like for certains yet. For this one, I figured I would put this one in here because it was actually asked by a commenter. Me being involved in extracurricular activities, I'd have to say, short answer, no. Like part of me feels bad in saying that because like I could be doing like something with my time, like, but at the same time, I just don't know if I can manage all that at the same time at the moment. So between work and school and just using that time to catch up on homework and studying, I figure that's a lot of time too. And as well as that, it takes me a while to get to and from places using the bus, and sometimes that's a bit more of a hindrance than it is a convenience. In saying that, I also try to keep up on current events though, just in case if there's something in town that I can, I don't know, just attend to go see it, or be more informed about something, or help out or volunteer my time at something. But just at this current moment, I feel like the only things I really have time for are just work and school and studying. And of course, doing this vlog, so that's something, I guess. So lastly, do you get homesick? Yes, I do. I do get homesick. More often than not, I would think. It's interesting because I never would have thought I would get homesick, but it does happen. Just growing up, you're just in a small town, and like sometimes you just never really pay that much attention to it. It's like, oh, it's just where I grew up. Great, cool, it's where I'm from. That's nice. But after living away for some time and then going back for like a visit, it's just like, it changes you. It just makes me realize like how much I miss home, even though to someone else it may just be like this little speck on an island, but that little speck is my speck. Like my hometown of 12,000, just steadily growing. Like, it seems small, but it's where I grew up. So, and I find that I notice too, that whenever I'm around, or if I just see something on TV or something that just says Newfoundland, or a news story that says Newfoundland, or St. John's, or Gander, or East Coast, or this, or like Atlantic Canada, that, I'm like, I just cling to it. I find myself just like, I stop what I'm doing, or I just be like, oh, what's that about? Or my people, my friends, my family, my home. So it's just weird how it affects you. And I guess that how it affects me is just when if I hear something, my ears perk up, and I'm just like, what is this? Are they saying something good? Are they saying something bad? Is it somebody I know? Like, what happened? So, I do get homesick. Because there's no one here from Newfoundland that I know of. I've seen bits and pieces of home, interestingly enough. But I don't think I've really talked to anybody else from my home province. I've talked to people that have either been to Newfoundland, or know someone who's been there, or have someone in their family that, like, either distant relatives or just, I don't know, someone in their family is like, oh, I know someone who lives there, or I've been there and it was really nice and I'd love to go back someday, or I've never been but I've always wanted to go there. Story time. I just remember when, like sometime last year, I was with my friend, and we were walking downtown, and there was like a lot of stuff on the go. I think it was either a First Friday or just something else. So it was busy, the streets are busy, people were in the streets, just listening to music or just other events going on at the time. Anyway, we're just not touristy, but like just walking around downtown just because. And we just end up walking into the antique shop. It's a very, very nice place. I feel like I have to walk around very like cautiously because I don't want to break everything. But like this one time, my friend and I, and we go in and they're playing music like through the speaker system. And turns out that it was a soundtrack for a musical, which is actually Come From Away. Like, while I've definitely heard of this musical before, and my folks have actually seen it on Broadway, and this musical is actually based off my hometown and surrounding areas. I can't leave you guys out. It's not just Gander, but the other places too. I've yet to see this musical about my town and my province, but the store owners, these men, and they're just so nice, and they were so like enthusiastic and very like they thoroughly enjoyed the musical, and I didn't know it was a soundtrack to that because I knew Come From Away was a thing, but I didn't know that was like what I was hearing was a soundtrack for the musical. That part I didn't know at the time. Like, one of them was wearing a shirt for the show, and it's just like I was talking to them and I just got so emotional. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe it. You're talking about my town and like you just love it. Oh my gosh. It was just a very like unexpected reaction, I guess. So, and they just went on and on and on, like saying like how much they enjoyed the musical and how the story was so like it's so impactful because it's based on real life and is based on this tragedy that happened to New York, and yeah, just a story of hope and people coming together and like getting through this tragedy. I guess it's just kind of funny, like for me, it's not that I don't see my province as insignificant. It's just where I grew up. It doesn't reflect me the same way, but to someone else to say all those nice things about my hometown and for my province, that because of that one particular day in history, September 11th, 2001, I was 10 years old. I remember all of these people coming to my town, and I was hanging out with a friend, and I didn't know what was going on. Like, is there like a conference or just why are there so many people here? That's all I vaguely remember. Just a sunny day, just seeing all these people. I had no idea where they came from and why. But when I learned more about it in school later, and as I got older, it struck me that oh my gosh, like this happened and this was a thing, and people just needlessly died for no reason. And yeah, but my community and the surrounding communities of Lewisport and Appleton, and they came together in Gambo. I can't forget Gambo. They came together to help these other people because it wasn't their fault. Their planes just got diverted, and we're an airport town, and planes land there, obviously. But we just banded together to help these people. And well, I was too young to really like remember much, but just watching stuff later and over the years, and just like whenever September 11th comes up, it's just we have our moment of silence, but also appreciation of those involved. And yeah, so it affects me a little bit differently now that this Broadway musical, this thing came about of my hometown. So just hearing the music in the antique shop and the store owners just telling me with so much like emotional like positivity about it, and just me unexpectedly hearing what they had to say, it was just so nice. So yes, in short, I do get homesick. But But I FaceTime with my folks back home, and I text people from home all the time, so, or at least try to. So I do have my moments where I can still connect with those back home, which is great and appreciated. But yeah, I think that clues up one Q&A video for now. If you have any further suggestions for other videos I can make, then please feel free to leave a comment and subscribe and share to other places on the internet if you'd like. And I just want to say thank you for watching and have a great day.